Welcome to the podcast of heaven.
I interrupted
I'm
you.
still honestly, I'm still processing that.
That first line is amazing.
Because
it's very he writes very densely, so I'm gonna just try to pull out some things, but
yeah.
So then he goes on to say this: the potential is there for filling up the storehouses, and that's like the church, right? With a prorated worthy harvest. Yet where are the laborers? Are they lost? Are they lost? Strengthen your lost perceptions. The Lord is present to protect his own from being lost. Stories of the least of these look like sowers without laboring. Okay, the least of these. We've talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about this last.
Talked about that before. So the least of these. Now, when he talks about sowers without laboring, it made me think about Matthew 21-16, where it talks about the parable of the workers in the vineyard. And, people show up at different times. Someone shows up at, 9 o'clock in the morning. Someone shows up at, noon, 3, 6, whatever. And the person who owns the vineyard ends up giving everybody the same wages. Okay. Whether they showed up and worked all day or whether they showed up at the end of the day and worked a little, he gave them all the same amount of pay. And that kind of ticks off the people who've been working all day. Like, why did those people get the same amount of pay? But he's like, well, I'm the owner and I can do whatever I want, right?
I like the prorated part.
Yeah.
Because
I know, prorated, right?
I only hear that word used for rent money.
Really, I only hear it for insurance.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure you hear a bunch, but
so go back to when it got lost and you'll get prorated.
And then the perception, it's like he's saying no one, like the people who are supposed to be sowing aren't sowing.
Well, and also we are in the church, we're using the word lost. Oh, we have to go seek and save the lost. Oh, the lost need to come to Christ. What he's saying is, are my people lost? Have they lost their way? Like, do they not understand?
Yeah, like there are lost people in the congregation.
Yeah, and maybe not like lost for, all of eternity, but the idea is, have they lost their way?
Right.
Okay. Will the protection of the Lord mean that we who are little worth in the eyes of the labor force mean that we will listen to the protection over us too? Last place, last place, last place. This is the Lord's promise. The ones deemed last place will lead the worthiness of the proper procession into the kingdom of God.
And the proper procession is the last will be first and the first will be last. That's the proper
exactly.
procession.
Exactly. So we're getting to that. Okay. Last place. This is what he says. Last place is slower than the others. Last place is lower regarded than the others. Last place is looked at by others as the most tremendous loss to the present priority of the treasury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. My taxes go to the disabled. Moldy, moldy, moldy greed. You are little in the eyes of people who are literally using the least of these to literally fill their own pockets with power. So what he's saying is he's setting up, first of all, this picture of the disabled. He's setting up the picture of these people that in Roman society and in Jewish society are not contributing, right? And they're having to be taken care of. Even in Jewish society, it's like the people of the temple had to allow the beggar to wear the cloak to get alms. Okay. Like they had to, when Jesus came to the blind man who was holding out his asking for alms, Jesus said, "Are you willing to let go of that cloak and be healed?" That cloak was basically a sign that they were allowed to beg. But what he's saying is that, that even in society today, oh, it's just looked at as such a burden that you would have to help provide for these people,
Well, that is
And
exactly how we're made to feel, for sure.
yeah.
Yes.
And so then he says, listen to the Lord. You are the property of the Lord's. Life will look like it is only politically fortressed if life is lost living in the protection of the political system. Okay? Now this is
Gosh.
this is the key right here. Listen to the Lord. Worth is the least of these, being lifted up to lead into the kingdom of God, all who are structure praised, all who are work praised, all who are literally self-promoting, all who are truly worthy, but who do not know that the Lord's property is all worth the same in his eyes. Okay, now I'm going to pause there and say this. This is what's so interesting is we had been watching The Chosen, and a while back, Jesus, came in and turned over the tables, the money changers, and all of that stuff. When I started looking up this word "Lee" and looking at this, what Josiah had written, I realized that the money changers were actually there was a temple tax, right? That the people had to pay to enter into the temple. And of course, there were the sacrifices too, but there's this temple tax. What is this temple tax? Well, they had to have a temple coin, which was a half shekel, to be able to enter the temple. And what that said was, I am this God's. I belong to this God's. I am his property. Okay. I belong to this God and I belong to be able to come in here. And here is this half shekel. And it was supposed to be the same for every single person. Whether you were wealthy or poor, half shekel. What the money changers were doing inside of the gates of the temple is that because the currency was had was Roman currency that had like faces of the Caesar or whatever on it, that was not allowed into the temple. So the money changers had to take their currency and change it into this temple coin. The reason why Jesus overturned the tables was that the people who were the money changers were charging all these exorbitant fees to exchange that money.
I see.
And so Jesus was like, you've turned this house of prayer into a den of thieves. The exchange rate was basically like variable, and they're just taking advantage of people and can charge whatever they want so that you can even get entrance into the temple. Okay. So like that's what Jesus was saying. He's turning this all over because here's the thing. Anybody should be able to say, I belong to this God and he is my God, and not have the barriers to it. So this is what Josiah says here. He says, the Lord is the one who determines the worthiness of a person. Worth is literally all he thinks about. Sit on that for a minute. Worth is literally all he thinks about. Life is protected with our understanding of worth. Property of the Lord is understanding our worth as people in this earth. Literally, you are mine and I am yours. Looks like the worthiness praise cycle that will precipitate the latter rains of renewal. You are mine and I am yours. Now, listen to that. The
And that's the whole Lee
precipitation
thing,
cycle.
right?
Listen, Imagine like the condensation, going up and
Yes, like the water cycle.
us receiving the Lord saying, "You are mine," and us praising out and saying, "I am yours," is what creates the rains of renewal. That is beautiful.
That is such incredible imagery.
Thanks for listening to the podcast of Heaven.